Let's talk more about the election issues with CBS 46 political analyst Dr. Rashad Richey. Rashad, good to talk to you again. And on social media last night, I saw a lot of people making reference to the Supreme Court's decision a number of years ago regarding the Voting Rights Act and changes that were made that basically allow states to really do whatever they want when it comes to polling places. And the accusation was that a number of polling places in minority communities, perhaps as many as 80 in the state of Georgia, were removed after this ruling by the Supreme Court. Is there any truth to that? And could that have contributed to the long lines that we saw?
It definitely could have, and there is truth to it. So let me explain what that landmark Supreme Court decision did that has been overturned. It basically said for states that have a history of violating the rights of voters, especially minority voters, those states have to go through what's called pre-clearance with the Department of Justice in order to change anything about their election protocol. Well, once that was overturned by a new Supreme Court, states and counties could then do what they wanted to do without pre-clearance from the Department of Justice. And yes, if you would have had more precincts, if you would have had more access, you definitely would not have had some of these long lines and other problems. But that's not all of it. As you know, some of these machines simply didn't work because people weren't trained and they had no idea how to troubleshoot.
Do you think that we're going to see the opening of additional polling places come August for any runoffs that take place and then in November for the general election?
I think you will see them try to overcompensate in the runoff. Now, typically in a runoff election for Democratic primaries and Republican primaries, you have a decreased voter turnout. I think they will stick with increasing the number of precincts just to avoid the political criticism, but it may not actually be necessary numerically, and they really should expand so that they understand their capabilities for the November election, which will be the Super Bowl of elections.
It will be the Super Bowl, and I think you and I will be hanging out watching that together, hopefully eating some Super Bowl snacks. Let's talk about
Yes.
Let's talk about the general election, Rashad. Is there anything that you saw last night? And I know obviously not all the results are in, but any trends that you noticed developing that might give us a hint in terms of what we may be looking at come November?
In multiple congressional districts all around the state of Georgia, you not only had increased Democratic turnout for the Democratic primaries, some of those turnouts actually broke records. So you see an excitement with more progressive voters than you see on the conservative side. That is new in the state of Georgia. We have not had this in a very long time. And I think that will translate into a hyper turnout in November. And so that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting on the final numbers to come back. Some precincts have not reported 100%, but you're already seeing an increased turnout of Democratic voters historically in primaries.
I love how you break it all down for us. Rashad Richey, good to talk to you. We'll talk again soon.
Meanwhile, election update.